Hey everybody, how you doing today? Welcome to a Friday afternoon in this very early wintry November.
Is it November the 15th?
Today is November the 15th. We're halfway through the month. Do you know winter has not officially started and won't officially start for another month and a bit?
A little trivia here for you.
Okay, lay it on me, Edward.
Blue Mountain.
Mountain
Opens today, the earliest it's ever opened.
Really?
It's never opened this early in 70 years.
See, there's no such thing as global warming. Did I just say that? Am I one of those people?
What?
There's no such thing as global warming. Snow in November. It's cold outside. Duh. Just for you, let's just say cerebral bandwidth challenged individuals out there who think that an early winter portends an absence of global warming. Here's how it works, and see if you can wrap your little pea brain around this. But the way it actually works is the increasing temperatures put more moisture in the atmosphere, causing displacement of historical normal high altitude weather patterns, which cause A, more precipitation, and B, irregular weather patterns as those systems are displaced. So, in fact, an early winter is, in fact, very strong evidence that global warming is proceeding at a much faster rate than anybody thought was possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Somebody said to me from across the street, "Oh, there's no global warming because it's cold and because we got early." It's like, come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's the big picture.
Anyways, I'm sorry if I offended you if you have a pea brain. There's nothing wrong with having a pea brain. There, did I?
What about having a pea?
Hey, what about Don Cherry?
I think he's cooked his goose.
You know, I saw a video of him in 1990. And he made, in that video, he was challenged by the journalist interviewing him as to, what he would do if he was elected. And he was extremely anti-immigration. Like, he was vociferously and rampantly. In fact, I would play the clip, but I think it's too offensive to anybody. It's just like...
Really?
Yeah, so like not to undermine a Canadian hockey icon, but nobody's perfect, A. Let's admit that. I know that's certainly Edward's not. I'm
not
Edward's
perfect.
not. No.
I'm far from perfect. In fact, I'm full of errors.
You're imperfect.
Imperfect.
Well, we're going to argue that an imperfect man is in fact a perfect work of nature.
That's
because
true.
There are no perfect people.
Perfection only exists in your mind.
Oh, God, that is such a tiresome topic. Anyways, let's talk about the shitty cannabis market, shall we?
God.
We had a visit today from an old friend who's going to be on the show, my old buddy Brad Rogers. Now, Brad has emerged as the CEO of Red, White, and Bloom, which is a Michigan-based grower and retailer and purveyor of cannabis. I'm going to let him tell his story. That's a little bit later.
Okay.
Bruce Campbell is going to be here for the weekly StoneCastle Cannabis Market Update. And also James and Ed are going to be here, and they're going to have an intro, then opening comments, then the show close comments, like, subscribe.
What?
I don't know. Anyways.
Okay.
So how about, now that we've had a chance to absorb these earnings, what about Aurora announcing that they're closing down their Denmark grow op, as well as their Aurora Sun facility?
Why?
Well, obviously, because they're not selling enough weed.
Yeah, that's the thing that sticks to me right now, is that the numbers seem to suggest that maybe the growth that everyone anticipated isn't there.
Well, people ask me why I didn't invest more in the cannabis space and invest earlier. It's because I always felt that cannabis was never going to be more than a craft industry. What I didn't realize, though, is that there were so many eager beavers who were willing to bid up the prices of these things. Like, who would have thought that we would have seen a $20 billion cannabis company in 2018?
I know. It's hard to comprehend.
Hard to comprehend. And loss of $1.08 per share, or $378 million. Like, wow.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of do-re-mi. Hey, and guess what we found in our old friend, the Goodwill and Other Nothings column? $1 billion.
$1 billion.
I believe it was 1.1 billion. So not the most impressive, but I guess the bigger they come, the harder they fall. Isn't that the way things generally work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
reality is coming into this thing, isn't it?
Reality is coming in hard. But the interesting thing is, so we had Brad Rogers on earlier, and he makes it very clear that he is profitable in the state of Michigan.
Really?
Yes. So that's going to be an interesting conversation to have. But what else we got? What's going on with the S&P 500?
Well,
Edward?
let's take a look. I think it hit all-time highs again today. All-time highs. S&P, you know, here we go. Here we go. Let's take a look. We got the chart up. And look, here we are. That's where we are. It's never been this high. It's never been this high. It's broken out of that pattern that our buddy in North Carolina talked about. It broke out, and now the trend is up, and it's going to stay that way until something happens to change it.
Okay, now what would happen to the S&P at 3,100? What is it at, 30?
It's 31.15, I believe. 31.16, according to
What would
this.
happen to that if it was revealed that the price increase was in fact due to an excess of money in the system and not actually due to investment performance? And that these companies were actually pretty much as worth about as, you know, without all the stimulation that goes on financially, these companies would not. Anyways, the one news item I saw, did you see in the elevator that the investigators have found that Google is in fact guilty of manipulating their algorithms to be biased towards large corporations in America? Now,
not surprising.
Well, this is what we've been saying here for going on 10 years now. I've had no end of people tell me I'm full of shit and we're wrong, but now it's revealed to be true. And so guess what? If you're a Canadian publisher, we're going to be putting together a class action lawsuit against Google, and we're going to try to go after them for $1 billion. How about that? Hey, oh boy, I always wanted to sue the shit out of a big company.
It's a crazy world, and it seems to be getting crazier.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, if you're interested in that, shoot me an email at midasletter@midasletter.com, and I will get you signed up for that program. I wonder how much money Canadian publishing enterprises have lost because of Google's preferential treatment towards large U.S. corporations.
Well, look at the money that they've amassed by being the way they are. So they think, hey, we just keep doing this, we'll have more money.
Right.
And that's, unfortunately, it's all about money.
Yeah, well, actually,
I got money.
If you read about Sergey Brin and Larry Page, they come off as quite the totalitarian assholes. Like, I guess, which is, when you got that
power
much dough.
corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Is that how that goes? Anyways, the price of gold wallowing around here at $14.66.
Yeah, I think gold's going to break down short term because I think interest rates are going to start going up.
You really think the interest rates are going to start going up?
Yeah, I do.
So isn't that going to take a Fed sort of FOMC meeting to drive that reality?
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see if the interest rate starts going up after what the Fed said what they said. It's more evidence that they're not in control.
Well, so this is the thing. If the economy is if the S&P 500 is a representative number of the health of the companies listed on its stock market, then how is it that the government continues to justify lower interest rates as a means to stimulate the economy? Now, either they're completely full of shit, or they're only a little bit full of shit, but they're definitely full of shit.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that, this is the source of my cynicism. When you look at the way the government reports numbers and the way that it massages public opinion, you really start to get just a little cynical. Just a little cynical. Yeah. But hey, I'm full of love as well.
Shall we look at the ETF? I mean,
look at whatever you want.
Yeah, okay.
We'll look at whatever you want, Edward. It's just no naked girls for you. We don't want to get ourselves in trouble. Anyways, yeah, gold, sucking hind tit here. Canopy growth, sucking hind tit.
You know what? We're getting very oversold in the sector. It's so oversold that maybe a little rally might occur here.
Let's see how Alphabet is doing. Google. Oh, Google's up today, $1,330 a share. Boy, not bad for a criminal organization.
$1,330, all-time highs, right?
Well, let's see.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. How about? Well, there you go. Okay.
So the money's pouring into the real juggernauts, the ones that look like they're impervious to any kind of destruction.
Ones that use criminal methodologies to dominate business.
Yeah, you know what? Look, with this much money in the world, it's all about money. Everybody's freaking about money.
So do you think that the world has become primarily a criminal place, more so than a place of law and order?
Certainly from a financial perspective. They can't resist. Like, you can't,
So at what point do you think society gets fed up and starts to, look for billionaires' throats to cut?
Well, that's what happens. Anarchy is around the corner, I believe.
Anarchy. Yeah, Eric Sprott, who's one of our, icons of business and capital markets, he's got a large weapons collection.
Does he? Mm-hmm. Really?
He does.
I have a friend who's a very smart physician, and he's not far away from that view.
Really? Have you got any guns?
No.
No?
No.
How about shields? Got a shield?
Thor.
Yeah. I've got a machete next to my bed.
Really?
Somebody comes and shoots me, I'm going to chop off the arm they're pointing the gun at me with. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think we're in crazy times. I mean, look at as I watch the street. Look at this. Weeds going by at $20.96.
$20.96. Do you think it's still overpriced?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have this exercise. What would you say is fair value for Canopy Growth given its most recent financials?
I'd have to really do a little analysis, but I'd like to know how much cash they have.
Off the top of your head.
Well, certainly I think it's going to $5.
They've got billions of dollars in cash, which is
right. But how much is that per share?
Well, that's exactly that's.
And it wasn't the cash they have now isn't what they had a year ago.
Okay, right. Well, so they at $20 a share. There's 360 million shares out, so there's $7.2 billion market cap still. And I'd say that they probably have $3 billion in cash and cash equivalents.
Yeah, I think 2.8 or 2.9. Yeah. So to your point, I think.
So is it worth 2x cash?
With revenues dropping, it's hard to. Why would you buy in an industry where it looks like, and maybe the Ontario, the rollout of all these dispensaries, they did it wrong.
They did it wrong. So how would you have done it?
Well, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I can't believe the valuations got to what they got to. $20 billion, it's now $7 billion.
Yeah, I think that the government should have done is just legalize cannabis. That's as far as they should have gone.
Yeah.
And let the market that has been servicing itself for hundreds of years continue to do so. And pretty sure that's what we're going to end up with anyways, because at the end of the day, growing cannabis is a craft business. It is not an industry.
It's a craft business.
It's a craft business.
It's exactly right. And that's why if you think about the beer industry, it's all about crafts now. It's all about
all they do is buy craft breweries.
Yeah.
Big breweries buy craft breweries because craft breweries are craftsmen.
Craft, I know craft cheese works.
What about Michael Kraft? Speaking of cheese. that's a little bit, that's almost hilarious, but
your wit is always welcomed.
Anyways, don't mind while Ed and I make fun of our friends on this show, and nobody else knows what the hell we're talking about.
I've decided to come up with a new clothing style.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I'm going to start wearing this. Say the same. Wear the same clothes all week.
They call that a uniform. Yeah. Your uniform and your choice of dress. So does this mean you slept in the alley last night?
No, I didn't sleep in the alley, but
Almost.
you might think that. Yeah. No, I like wearing the same stuff all the time. It's simple.
Did you go? Did you spend the night at Divorcee Hotel?
Yep. Yeah.
That's funny. No matter when you go to One King West, you can always find divorcees sitting around the bar who have been kicked out by their wives.
And they're drinking.
And they're drinking and telling stories. Generally, they're not talking about their wives that much. Okay, so let's get away from that topic. How did that happen? We're talking about the FANG stocks. Google, a reflection of the all-time high in the S&P, is at an all-time high at, well, no, it's not actually at its all-time high right now. Let's see, where is it? Oh, yes, it is. Okay, so it's at $1330.60. $1,330.60. That is a massive market cap. Let's check out Apple.
Okay.
Apple, not to be outdone. Oh, it's at $275 a share. That seems a bit cheap for Apple. More shares.
260. What do you got? 265?
I have 265.13.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check out Amazon. Not very often we talk about large caps on this show, but maybe we should do that more often. Amazon.com trading not at its all-time high, but at a very robust 1,738.
It's the one, big one that's come off a little bit. It can't seem to get back to where it was, whereas Google has, Apple has, Microsoft, I believe, is right up there too.
Microsoft.
They got tons of, again, clean balance sheets, lots of cash, lots of revenue.
Microsoft, $149.65 a share. All-time high. All-time record.
You know what? Hard to believe, but 6 or 8 people have the same wealth as the bottom half of the world's population. And this is why anarchy could be around the corner.
Well, if you look at these stock prices, this basically means that record high stock market numbers are being purchased fraudulently by the Fed by kiting checks.
Kiting?
Kiting checks.
Do you ever fly a kite?
I have flown a kite. You want me to go fly a kite?
Yep.
Anyway, so there you have it. Like, that's why I say this world is a criminal place when the government in charge of the largest nation on earth employs criminal tactics and permits criminal behavior by not only its president, but the leaders of its largest corporations, as evidenced by Google's repeated findings of guilty for manipulative and criminal behavior in its operation of its business. So basically, the world has become a reflection of America, and America is a criminal place. Canada's heading that way too. Anyways, that's a depressing thought.
Maybe it's a statement on what happens to people that, like, when you have all this free time, right? You don't have to work anymore. You just do whatever. You just
think up things to do.
You know what?
What should I do? I've got all the money in the world and nobody can tell me no. So let's see how outrageously misanthropic I can become towards my fellow man and future generations while I'm at it. I'm going to be so egregiously greedy and rapacious that I'm going to make sure by the time I'm dead, there's not a single ounce of gold in the ground, not a single scrap of food on the shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. When man goes too far, he becomes self-destructive.
Yeah. Well, every empire ultimately gets
destroyed. Yeah.
Rome,
even
Greece.
The universe ultimately is going to become a dark, cold place.
The sun's going to burn out.
The sun, the whole galaxy, the whole universe, all of the suns. Everything.
Nothing left.
But that is the precursor to the singularity that launches the universe.
And it starts all over again.
Yes, and we've got yet another chance to evolve to a point where we do not become a criminal place. How long do you think we'll have to wait for that? Here's the funny thing. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that it's the same bunch of people who get on the earth every time, like Groundhog Day, or what's that show with Tom Cruise where he gets killed every day and he comes back?
Oh, right. That was a good one.
That was a great one.
I like that.
The next day or the day after.
Every time he moves a little further along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that's the case for the whole human race. It's like, oh, shit, you let your billionaires destroy your planet again. Boom, you're dead again. Come back, start again. But for us, we got to evolve. First, we got to crawl out of the freaking primordial ooze. Ooze. And then we have to slay a whole bunch of dragons because that's just the way the world works. Then we got to go through the Dark Ages, the Iron Ages. We got to go through cholera and plagues and epidemics. We got to go through a flat Earth.
Pestilences.
Cyclopses. It's a damn fucking what a gig being a human being, eh?
You know what?
It's quite the gig. No wonder we look so funny.
Ha ha ha.
That was a real heartfelt laughter, Ed. Clearly you weren't looking at yourself in the mirror when you did that. Okay, well, we're really a tough crowd today over here.
I'm having a bit of a struggle because of our, I had a little too much wine to drink last night.
Oh,
And the wacky tobacco.
See, I eschewed the wacky tobacco. No, I did have a hit of the wacky tobacco, didn't I?
You did.
Yes, that's why I had so much fun.
Okay, so look, I'm looking at the screen and all the marijuana stocks seem to be coming off.
Okay, well, tell you what, why don't we pull up our famous cannabis indices and just see how ugly these things are. Okay, you know what I'm going to have to do is there is the NDI. Great. So, yes, large cap. Okay, I think we have finally reached, let's see, a new low on the large cap index. Let's go to the index page here. It's down for the day 3.17%. So that's a day after it was down, what, 6-7% by the end of yesterday?
It's melting in front of our eyes.
It really is.
And there's a few groups I know in the city that are short these things in a massive way.
Right.
They don't seem to have any impetus to try and cover.
Okay, so today we are down at, the last time we were down here was in April of 2018. So we've now given back everything since April of 2018.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And if I was a betting man, like looking at this chart here, I would say that the next stop is likely going to be down here. And this index started at 1,000.
You know, I think we were talking about the steady decline about 6 weeks, 7 weeks ago. We said, listen, if it's causing you to lose sleep, take some money off the table and don't worry about what you got to preserve your capital here. There's a lot of damage. People are, they're not happy. Conrad,
there are a lot of people who are going back to work.
I heard of such a case today. The guy's got to actually take a job.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really? Somebody in our industry? Somebody I know? No. Really? Well, we can't talk about that on the air. That's just horrible.
Jesus.
Well, that's too bad.
Jeez.
Well,
look at Curaleaf is up 27 cents today, up for almost 4%.
Curaleaf.
In a sea of red. Charlotte's Web's up 37 cents.
There you
3%.
go.
There you go.
Here's the great bifurcation. You know what this is? This is American revenge for taking the market in the first place.
Okay.
That's what I say.
I think tougher is coming.
Tougher?
Tougher times.
Yeah, well, tougher times for the Canadians for sure, but not for the Americans.
Well, they're in high cotton right now, but if rates start to move up, which I got a funny feeling, think about it. If everything's going so well in the U.S., rates will start moving up.
But things aren't going well in the U.S. It's all an illusion.
If you've got a big portfolio in the U.S., big ones, like we talked about Alphabet, we talked about Microsoft, Apple, as far as you're concerned, things have never looked better.
Right.
It's always about the person's perspective, their point of view.
Well,
everybody's got a point of view.
Well, there's nobody that doesn't have a point of view, and at the end of the day, your point of view is the only view you have. Unless you're one of those people who can sort of teleport into the minds of others.
I think you're right. I think the big mistake everybody thinks is that there has to be unanimity.
Boy, oh boy. Can't speak today.
Unanimity.
Let's say that again?
Unanimity.
We're going to need to get you some oral lubricant. That's what you need is to,
just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're right.
Just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they are right.
Yeah.
I see. Yes, it does.
Unanimous, unanimity. That's it.
Anonymity.
Anonymous.
Anonymity.
Unanimous, unanimity.
Hocus pocus, fligamus flocus. Anyways, Brad Rogers was here. Brad Rogers is probably the most resilient man in the cannabis industry. He has his third iteration in the cannabis industry. That's number 3 for Brad. Red, white, and blue. And here's that conversation. Any minute.
Where was...
I'm joined now by Red, White, and Bloom CEO Brad Rogers. Brad, welcome back.
Thank you.
Brad,
Nice
this is your third incarnation in the cannabis industry.
Third time's a charm.
You are prolific, to say the least. Tell us about Red, White, and Bloom. What do you do?
Well, look, this, as we all know, I think there's a lot of commerce in cannabis, period, around the world. But you know, the epicenter of the commerce is south of the border, and that's the exciting part for me. I mean, this opportunity that we've created south in Michigan specifically right now is like I've never seen before. You know, it's almost a blessing when you say, okay, Brad, let's rewind 8 years, take everything you know. No marketing restrictions, no product restrictions. You can own retail, you can own product, you can own brand, you can do anything you want. Go. I mean, who wouldn't take the opportunity?
No kidding.
Right?
So the laws in Michigan are medical and recreational?
So Michigan has just released the recreational piece, Jan 1, 2020.
Oh,
so,
wow,
so
good
we're
timing.
really excited about that. And
Yeah.
that's just something that's, you know, it's unique in and of itself within the Michigan regulatory framework in that all the medical licenses get a 2-year run on recreational licenses with no new recreational licenses being issued for 2 years. So I get 2 years of medical and rec with all of my infrastructure, which is very, very exciting. And so when you look at the opportunity of the $1 billion market they say it is right now, turning to $3 billion, so I have the opportunity to triple my sales in the infrastructure I have for 2 years.
Right.
So yeah, that's just in Michigan, which is just a phenomenal opportunity.
How many people in Michigan?
10 million.
10 million.
10 million, yeah. So
Wow,
it's
that's a big market.
and the appetite for cannabis there is insatiable, really. There's product constraints right now, and that you know they've ratcheted up the regulatory pieces and the testing. So the quality we have to now lift the bar on, which is exciting for me because that's
You've
what
been
we
there.
did. Yeah, I've done that. Right, I've worked under this arduous federal framework called Health Canada.
Wow.
And we standardize cannabis in Canada.
Yeah.
And so our goal now is to actually take what we know and move that into the United States and raise the bar on cannabis production, eliminate the pesticides, make sure it's good, clean product all the way through in every product line that we do.
Cool.
So that's pretty darn exciting for us right now in Michigan. And we're also looking nationally as well. We've got, we just bought the world's biggest indoor CBD production facility at 3.6 million square feet. We just did our first harvest. We've been in control of it for 5 months. Did our first harvest of 60 tons, and we couldn't be happier.
60 tons of CBD.
60 tons of CBD production.
So what strain
High
produces CBD?
Well, we call it Trump.
Trump. Well, that's funny. We could really have a heyday with that.
We're making America dope again.
Make America dope. I love it. So, what's the percentage of the CBD in your strain? Just out of curiosity.
It's CBD, so we're somewhere around 15%. We're standardizing that at around 15%.
Okay.
And the demand, actually, it's really interesting. So, in the demand for CBD in the United States is there as well.
Right.
And so we're going into gas and we're going into convenience stores with bud, with CBD bud. So it's compliant bud that they're just rolling up and smoking as a hemp joint.
Wow.
So that's a whole other opportunity as well when you look at a national play that you can put product everywhere across the United States and not just in the regulated states that you're in. You can put it everywhere because it's now compliant.
Now, my understanding is you raised a good chunk of change privately, too.
We did, yeah. So that's, I mean, luckily enough, we've got a good enough reputation in that we've made some people some money. We've done some, real good value brand building and company building. And so we went to the street ourselves, not with any bank yet, and we raised over $100+ million US.
Wow.
And so we've deployed that into Michigan and Illinois right now, and now we're returning, really good numbers. Really.
Wow.
I'm really excited about that.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm so happy for you. And obviously, there's no rush to go public in this market, I'm assuming.
Yeah, unfortunately, the markets are where they're at, but
well, you're in a good place.
Yeah, we're in a really good place. I mean, all of our businesses are in the black, so we're all profitable everywhere. So we can keep our heads down under the fire that's going on in the markets right now. But markets aside, the U.S. is doing lots of commerce. There's so much, of a transformation of alcohol to cannabis. And I think, what we're going to see in the U.S. and in Canada as well is that the alcohol market is going to sort of, dissipate a little bit. All the I wouldn't call them kids, I call them, 18 to 25-year-olds are all looking at cannabis as a mind escape as opposed to alcohol now. And so, the cannabis consumption within that demographic is a wave that's coming that I think is really going to be impactful to a whole new economy called cannabis in the United States and in Canada.
You bet. Okay, so what exactly is your asset mix composed of at this point?
So right now we've got we've got 3 grows in Michigan. We've got 12 operating stores right now that are doing over $100 million in revenue just in Michigan. Our grows aren't up yet, and so when the grows come online, we're going to exercise the rest of our licenses. We've got 17 licenses for stores to open as well. So we can open as many stores as we want. Our goal is 25 and over $200+ million on frontline retail revenue, plus we're going to have our grows in play in 2020. So we're looking in Michigan in 2020 about $250 to $300 million by the time 2020 is done on a run rate. So that's darn exciting in just one state. And Illinois, we're going after a rec license there as well because it just went rec in Illinois. So serendipitous, as we went into Michigan, it turned rec. Going into Illinois, that turned rec now as well. So that opportunity in that market is quite compelling as well.
Sure.
So,
what's a competitive landscape like in Michigan and Illinois at this point?
Well, we're, I think, by far the biggest. We've got the footprint right now. We've got the commerce. We've got the supply. Supply is a tough one right now in Michigan. Some of the big boys that are trying to get in there haven't opened because they can't get the supply in order right now because it's an old caregiver model, which is different than what's happened, in other states. So now they're bringing in all these other. You're starting up your grows and you're bringing in product from all these different caregivers, and now the compliance metrics have changed. So you have to meet a standard of quality, and so all these things are prohibitive to people opening up new stores at the rate they probably should be opening them to meet this rec market that's coming. But that's a bit of a challenge, but we're feeling really good about what we have right now and the potential in Michigan, just specifically in that state. But beyond that, Illinois is a huge opportunity as well. Very similar to Michigan, blue collar, hardworking folks that do some, love cannabis.
Right. Awesome.
We're looking into California. We're also looking into Florida as well. So those are our 4 pillars we're going to be standing on, I think, in the next little while.
And is the vape crisis, for want of a better categorization, having a negative impact on your ability to grow product, or is it just a matter of having to improve the existing product?
Well, I believe it's the FDA came out with a report saying that they've identified the common thread of the people who died or are sick, and that's the vitamin E acetate.
Right.
And so if you're making product and if you're buying product, just for everybody out there, just make sure that you're not buying anything with vitamin E acetate in it right now, because we know that's a common thread, at least anyhow, that's been identified. But beyond that, highest quality, and that's what we do. We pharmaceutically standardize, and so any product that you buy from us is going to be of that quality. And so we're so excited to bring that level of quality to America, and specifically these 2 states, and then we're going to go beyond that.
Sure. So it's interesting that you were able to raise over $100 million in a market where nobody's writing checks. So is it true then that in the cannabis industry, this downturn in the markets is regarded very much as just a natural phenomenon in markets, but the cannabis industry is alive and well and growing? And
oh yeah, look, the cannabis industry is definitely alive and well and growing. There's been, unfortunately, in the markets, there's been a lot of snake oil salesmen and charlatans come to the table. As per when the gold rush happens, that's what happens, unfortunately. People put a lot of money into the hopes and the dreams of something that really never existed. So when you look at fundamentals, and hopefully that's what it's going to come down to, fundamentals, people that are going to be actually putting value against what you have versus what you might have in the future with their money, that's the exciting part, and I think that's where it's going to be going. So return results, give money to, put people's money to work, and so we spend very judiciously. We're buying assets right right now at 0.3 to 0.5 times revenue. And the market's paying, I think now it's probably about 2.5. But you know, so it's give me $1, I turn it into 3 or 4 or 5. You know, on a turn.
So you won't need to raise any money even to grow your business through acquisition.
Well, like I say, we're in the black right now. We're doing stock deals on just on our own stock and our private stock right now. So you know, and people are really compelled to do that because we are real value based.
Right.
And so we're returning bottom line. We're doing real sales, and you know, so that's the important part. And we run a real operation. We can grow. We can, you know, produce, and we can sell, and you know, we can do all the fundamental things that are going to be efficient and substantial for a business.
Sure. Is the black market in Michigan as strong as it is in California?
Oh, it's big. Absolutely, it's big. And so the interesting thing about Michigan is they've tabled a very punitive measure where if you deal in illicit cannabis, it is a felony. Not just a $35 ticket for selling $500,000 worth of product. It's now going to be a felony. So the risk premium to grow and, you know, deal in illicit market in Michigan will be that of a felony, and so you know, it's going to be a $75 gram because, you know, he's going to go to jail for a long time if he's caught dealing.
Right.
And so that's, you know, good for the market. I think it's great for regulatory reform in terms of, you know, pushing people in safe channels that are doing quality product, right? And so you don't know what's coming out of Bobby's basement these days. You know, it's laden with pesticide and vitamin E acetate right now. So you know, here we are.
Amazing, Brad. Well, that's an incredible update. I did hear of your activities, and I was so glad that you finally came in and told us what's going on.
The other side. I kept my head down for a while. We built a little thing here.
Yeah.
I think it's a going concern. We're real happy about it and very proud. So
all right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll come back to you soon. We'll send a crew down there and shoot your giant operation.
Do. Come on down. Love to see it.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. Some people I know, they're always making faces. Ever heard that one?
Yeah.
How about this one? You will always find him in the kitchen at parties. You will always find him in the kitchen at parties. Name that artist. What?
I don't know. I don't know that song.
IKEA used to have it as an advert. Oh, let's say old New Wave tune. I can't remember who does it either.
New Wave?
Yeah.
Like
you remember
New Wave?
Do you remember the musical?
NWES? It's their tune?
What?
New Wave.
New Wave?
That's the name of the company.
Oh, no, it's not the company. No, not the company. Not the company.
Look at T-God, 83. Okay, let's put a chart up at T-God, just for Hillary, okay?
Who is it?
T-God. What?
Jonah Lilly. I didn't know that. Jonah Lilly is the name of the artist.
I never knew that. And I wouldn't have guessed that in a billion years.
No way.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Watch this. Some people suggested from the beginning this was a promotion.
What? T-God?
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly was a promotion.
Okay.
But then every publicly traded company is a promotion to some extent.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if the public company that is not promoted does not deliver any joy to its investors ever. At least T-God, like everybody who was in at 25 cents, 75 cents, you know, those guys made out like bandits.
Oh, well, look, there's some people that were involved that made millions and millions and millions of dollars. So when the smaller participants add up their losses, it's basically, it was a wealth transfer.
Yeah. Well, that's what the stock market is, isn't it? It's a wealth transfer mechanism.
They say that the stock market was invented to take money from stupid people.
Really? Well, that would explain why my money's all gone in the market.
Hey, you know what? Ditto. You know what? And you know why? Because if you don't have discipline in your trading, and I mean, I'm talking about the serious discipline. I don't mean this, little bit of discipline.
Right. To be consistent, to win consistently, you have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Renaissance Technologies is a company that reputedly never loses money. and has the best investing track record in the history of stock markets. And that was started by John Simons, very much in the news now. You want to hear something funny? Is just before he came into the news and released that book, we actually started development on our own algorithm. And I don't know whether it was him out in the universe there and he found a way to get into our heads, and now we're going to basically be the new Renaissance technologies.
You know what? Yeah.
People think that's being flippant.
A lot of times people have an idea. They say, well, this should happen. And they jam that idea, and yet the charts are saying something else, and you go with your idea thinking the charts are wrong. I mean, this is an oversimplification, but I would say, you can look at a chart and say, well, looks like it's the trend is changing. If you can identify trends, changes in trends, you can make a fortune.
No kidding, eh?
And I think that's, okay, go ahead.
Bruce Campbell was here for the StoneCastle Asset Management Cannabis Weekly Analyst Update, and Bruce is the investment manager at StoneCastle Asset Management, and here's that conversation. Welcome everybody to the StoneCastle Investment Management Friday Cannabis Market Update. I'm here with Bruce Campbell, Portfolio Manager of StoneCastle Investment Management. Bruce, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's Cannabis Disappointment Week.
Well, it's Cannabis Disappointment Year, if you ask me. I don't see any reason to be excited about cannabis, though. So let's jump right in here. The Center for Diseases Control came out and identified vitamin E acetate as the culprit in the vape injuries that have been occurring and resulting in death in some cases. Do you think that's the only problem?
Well, certainly it might not be the only problem, but that's one of the ones that they've isolated at this point in time. And if you go back, remember, probably 6 weeks ago now, when the sector was selling off, there was a lot of concern about what this meant for the sector, whether or not vapes were even going to be allowed in Canada. And there was, a lot of swirl around this. The extraction companies sold off. The companies that had vapes in the U.S. sold off. And really, those companies were really pointing their finger, saying, like, we think it's some of the additives that are in the black market product. And that's so far what the Center of Disease Control has come out and been able to isolate. So it should mean, if that's actually the case, then we should see pick up again from consumers.
Okay. Well, let's hope so, especially for those whose business is solely focused on vapes.
Yeah, they've been hurt the most.
You bet. Let's talk about Cresco Labs and Origin House. The market anticipated they're going to reprice their merger transaction so that shareholders in Organogram will receive 0.84 of a Cresco share. They were going to get 0.84. Now they're going to get 0.7.
That's right. Yeah. So this isn't, this is something that we talked about previously. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about the fact that, this deal in particular looked like it was going to be repriced because the Origin House stock just kept drifting lower, and the gap on the spread was widening out. And in fact, that's what we saw happen, is that, with all the sell-off in the sector, Cresco was able to go back to Origin House and say, you know what, this just doesn't work at this price, so we need to bring down the numbers, and they did. And I mean, that's a fairly substantial haircut to what investors were going to be getting with where they were before, especially considering that Origin House and Cresco have both sold off in price as well.
Sure. Do you think, from where you sit, are you a shareholder of either company, first of all?
We're not right now, no. Oh, actually, we are. We own a little bit of Cresco. We don't own much. We just own a small little position of Cresco, yeah.
Okay. So as a shareholder, would you have rather seen them delay the merger rather than reprice it at this level, or are you happy?
Well, if you look at the assets that Origin House has in California, I mean, they're fairly strong assets. And so, I think it's important to try to get in there and build that before, you really see that black market taken away. That's what the state's working on. And so with what they have, I think it makes sense. They were able to reprice it. They got a better deal on the assets, given the market conditions. They would have been happy with it, either way, I would imagine, especially when you look at it, probably a couple years down the road. But if you can get something cheaper, it always makes more sense, right?
Sure. Who doesn't like a discount?
Yeah.
Okay, the IIPR US REIT did a sale and leaseback with Green Thumb Industries. What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, Innovative Industrial is a New York Stock Exchange listed REIT that's been focused on the cannabis sector, and what they're doing is, they're buying properties from different MSOs and LPs down in the U.S. and then basically leasing it back. And I mean, there's been a lot of talk of the source of funds, whether or not these MSOs are going to be able to raise more money because of course they need a lot of money to continue to expand out. And we've seen this in Canada as well. There's lots of concern about, whether or not these companies are going to be able to continue to fund their operations. This is something that we've seen. We saw one trend, which was, if you go back a few years ago, we saw all the LPs raising cash to go and turn around and buy their buildings because originally they were leasing them. And I suspect you'll probably start to see that unwind and go the other way. Where they're going to sell the buildings to something like a REIT, like Innovative Industrial, and then they'll lease them back. And that's, in this case, it was I think it was $40 million that they did with GTI. So it's a fairly substantial amount of money that they end up getting. They obviously give up the ownership of their building, but they get cash.
Right. Okay, that's probably good for GTI shareholders. They'll be able to build some value with that cash theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Innovative Industrial as well. I mean, they pay a dividend and they trade on the New York Stock Exchange and they just keep building out their portfolio. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and New Brunswick has made an announcement in regard to their cannabis infrastructure. And tell me what is happening with New Brunswick.
Well, they have 20 stores and then obviously their distribution network, and they've been losing money. And so what they said is, as opposed to us losing money, which is taxpayers' money, we want to sell this and let somebody in the private sector take it over. And they specifically cited the difficulties with Health Canada as one of the reasons why they wanted to do this beyond, sort of losing money. I think it's probably, it's interesting because if you were to come in there and you have, if you have access to capital, you're going to go in there and be able to buy an asset that really probably gives you a bit of a monopoly in New Brunswick. And it's going to take a little time probably to turn it around. But if you, like I said, if you have that capital, now you're going to have a monopoly. So I was a little surprised to see that they were doing it, but I guess they're probably taking pressure from taxpayers with the fact that it's costing them money.
Right. Amazing. I don't know too many drug dealers who have lost money selling drugs.
Yeah, only a government can do that.
That's right. They shouldn't be in the business in the first place. Okay, now let's talk about some of these earnings we've seen this week. The one bright spot that I saw was MediPharm Labs, who, reported some earnings as opposed to dramatic losses. And but everywhere else is disappointment. So let's start with the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Canopy Growth Corp. That was quite the shocker for me. How about you?
Yeah, it was, and I mean, obviously the street was shocked too. You saw the way the stock sold off on Wednesday, when they announced their numbers. It took everything down in the entire sector, and people are taking a look now and really concerned about how long it take for these companies to actually be profitable.
Yeah, no kidding. And Aurora?
Yeah, Aurora was the same way. I mean, obviously it wasn't the same shocker that we saw with Canopy because of the Canopy news. The big thing with Aurora was the fact that they're going to shut down or stop construction of two of their facilities. The first is their Nordic facility in Denmark, and then the second is their Sun facility in southern Alberta, which was a bit of a surprise. I mean, they've obviously earmarked a lot of money for this, but what they've said is that they haven't said they're never going to complete those. They've just said that at this point in time, we're not going to do that because we want to save capital. And once the global market expands, then at that point in time, they'll go in there and start the construction back up again. And actually, the Sun facility, they did say they're going to run 6 grow rooms there. So the interesting thing that came out of their earnings, though, was their a couple things. One was their cash cost. They actually have it down pretty low. It's 85 cents per gram, which is, I think, the only one lower would be Village Farm. And then the other significant piece there was beyond the cash cost was their adjusted sale price, which was kind of in the 5s, right? So yep. That continues to come down and is kind of interesting as well.
Sure. Village Farms also an earnings disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, they missed their numbers. A lot of their numbers, though, had to do with the fact that they had to sell wholesale because they didn't have the proper licenses that they needed in that quarter in order to do it, and so they got a significantly lower price. So they got around $2 per gram, and interestingly enough, they were still they still did fairly well. It's just the numbers were a lot lower than the previous quarter because they had to do it that way, and they also, with their partner, they hadn't received the full payment that they were expecting. But the interesting part with them was that their selling cost, or their average, not selling cost, but their production cost was in the 60, I think it was 62 cents, which, shows you that if they have a real price competitive market, they will, in the $2 range, they can still make a nice margin on that.
Okay, and Vivo. Selling price. Their average selling price was $7.15. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, the one thing that I kind of took from that is that there is going to be this premium market. If you compare that to what Village Farms sold theirs for in the twos, these guys are getting $7.50 a gram, and because it's premium product. And so if this premium product really does get a higher price, there's going to be a lot of niche, smaller LPs that are able to generate fantastic margins, because even if it costs them sort of $2 to grow it, they can sell it for $7.50. That's great margin.
That sure is. Wonder why they're able to get such a high price.
Well, they were saying it's just because it's craft and it's it's unique, and they probably have strains that are a little bit different, and then also the quality. If you compare a small indoor facility to one of the mass greenhouses, from everything that I've been told, the quality is way better in an indoor facility where they have so much more control over the environment.
Okay, well, that's great. Bruce, we're going to leave it there for now. We'll come back to you next week for, again, the StoneCastle Investment Management Cannabis Market Update. Thanks for joining me.
Have a great weekend.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits. Anyways, so disappointing earnings all around.
Look at huge up today, up 76 cents to 7.04.
Up to 76 cents to 7.04. Now that's just remarkable, considering the private placement was done at $20. That's so how do you explain that?
You know what? There aren't many shares anymore, are there?
Well, that's just it.
Well, there you go.
So it's easy to move around.
It's easy to move
Aurora
around.
Cannabis is at 357, high trader on the TSX.
No, 357. No, it's going by at 438.
No, that's delayed. It's $3.57. Oh, wait a sec. This is Canadian. $3.57. That's delayed.
Really?
Yeah. Selling off like a hot damn. 80 cents down.
Oh my God. Wow. 362 I show right now.
357 I show.
I show 362.
What's the volume you're showing right now?
I don't know.
Oh, I've got 50,200,000.
Wow.
50.2 million shares. So this just started. Oh my gosh. Let's pull up an intraday of ACB, but it looks like it looks like somebody finally got the memo on ACB because the sell-off is happening. Let's see whether it's happening in the States or in Canada for the most part. Okay, 361 we've got here. Damn, they don't show. There's the volume. But RSI at 40. $3.62. Wow. Look at this. The sell-off, the bloodbath is on. It's accelerating into the day, into the end of the day here. It looks like the capitulation could be at hand. We did predict that the large cap index would go down closer to 1,000. It's at below 5,000 now. Is that possible? Do you think this market could give back everything?
Yeah.
Everything.
Absolutely.
And leave nothing left but dust,
And
broken hearts,
and
black market.
consternation.
Consternation. Remorse. Buyer's remorse. Anyways,
I know it's hard to believe, but you know, bubbles do that.
bubble, bubble, boil in trouble. Cauldron burn, cauldron bubble.
Where did you get that little chant?
Well, it's from I'm a witch in another existence.
You're a witch? No. I'm gonna turn you into a frog. Would you be a warlock?
No, I'm a drag queen witch.
Which one?
Which one? Samantha?
On Bewitched?
Yeah, good one. Hey,
I'm
nothing
right
slow,
there.
Nothing slow about Edward
No,
Milewski.
no.
I'll tell you, Polsky O'Gorky is quick on the draw.
I gotta tell you.
You want to smoke some weed tonight, Polsky?
You know what? I can't wait.
Really?
Well, I can wait, but you know what? None of us are getting out of this alive. So my attitude now is, as I head into the autumn of my life,
The autumn.
or late summer,
Late summer, come
or
on.
maybe late winter.
Late winter. Ooh, that would be scary. That would mean it's almost over.
Well,
Maybe you're about to be
if you're
reborn.
born on January 1, and let's say you die on December 31st.
In the same year?
Yeah, like that. Everybody's got their life, right? So it's where are you on the calendar? In other words, are you in August? Are you in September? Are you in November? Are you in December 30th? We're going. No matter what we do, none of us. I don't care what royalty. I don't give a shit who you are.
Look at Slang Worldwide down to 46 cents.
You can't buck the trend.
North Bud. No, N is Namaste down to 38 cents. Emerald Health down to 54 cents. Chiron, 88 cents.
Emerald Health is 54 cents?
54 cents.
Oh.
They were in here at $4 telling me they were undervalued.
We are in the period now where you could almost throw darts and short and make money in the marijuana sector. Like,
Yeah.
people are fleeing.
Well, you'd have to be pretty quick today. It's 3:59. So, well, that was the horrible week that was in the cannabis space. And let's talk about mining. Hey!
Minding your own business.
Mining.
Yeah, we got to see these commodities starting to catch a bid, which will happen.
Which commodity would you like to see catch a bid, as it were, Edward?
Well, you know what? Okay, so here's the question.
Time's
this was
up.
on CNBC. I'm going to throw this out here. Let people think about this.
Okay.
How
Parting thought of
much
the day.
money is the automotive industry going to throw at electric vehicle production over the next 4 years?
Send in your answers to Midas Letter at
How much?
MidasLetter.com.
The answer's in billions, so you don't have to say.
How do you know?
Well, this is what they said. This
Who's
is
they?
CNBC.
CNBC. Come on, those guys are promoters.
Look. The best
look.
performing stock on the NASDAQ in the last 3 months has been Tesla.
Tesla, yes.
It's almost doubled.
It's a pump and dump. The entire United States is a pump and dump at this point.
You know what?
Anyways,
The chickens are coming home to roost.
yeah, but unfortunately it's going to take Canada down in the downdraft.
We need a cathartic.
A cathartic? A catheter?
We need a catheter up your
Up the penis of the United States president.
up your dupa. Here.
Okay, well, that's the depressing week in
Do you
cannabis.
think if you went down one hole and came out the other, could you do that? Does that happen? I don't think
I don't
so.
know, let's give it a shot.
Well, food goes in.
We'll
food goes
extend the
out.
show an extra
food
hour.
goes out. Why is it always brown?
Well, sometimes it's green,
Yeah,
if you look closely.
If you eat black balls.
God, that's
Remember black balls? You suck on them?
Anyways, we might be back next week, but we might not.